Hello everybody, and welcome to Conscious Voices Rising. My name is Deepika Delmenico, and I'm the founder of Conscious Woman Rising and host of Conscious Voices Rising. Today, I am so honored and delighted to be in conversation with Mbouni. Marie is a medical doctor, shaman, consciousness coach, and temple body artist. Marie is founder of Heart Leadership and the Super Creator Method. She's a leading expert on helping high-performing entrepreneurs, leaders, creatives, and business owners get reconnected and centered in order to achieve unprecedented levels of performance, alignment, and joy. You got to be joined to joy. Experience your own joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marie is a best-selling author, a healer, and speaker, and her work is a reflection of her unique background in both Western and Eastern medicine. With 17 years experience as an MD in anesthesiology, and as a lifelong intuitive and channel, Marie's Eastern roots include robust work as a modern mystic and a multidimensional spirit guide in energy, creativity, and shamanic healing. Marie's insights have been featured in major media, including NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox. So, Marie, thank you so much for joining us today to be in conversation around modern mysticism for conscious heart-centered leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepika. Thank you for having me. It is such an honor and pleasure to be able to be here and join all of you who are watching live or later and truly come together as conscious voices rising in these unprecedented times. Really,
Yeah.
really happy to be here.
Yeah, well, they really are unprecedented times, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it really is almost like a pause, an extended pause for us to really feel into what is alive in us, what is our voice wishing to express in terms of resonance in the world, which of course is so different for everyone. But for you, this is exactly what you work with. So, can you share a little about, how did heart-centered conscious leadership emerge through your journey as a Western trained medical doctor?
Mm.
That's, you have quite a journey to share.
It is a journey. I'm going to start with the Western part. Since I was a kid, since I was 6 or 7, I knew that I was going to be a doctor. And I remember whenever Christmas came and it was time to choose gifts, because my parents used to ask, I would always ask for, you know, toys and games for doctors, playing doctors. And and I had dolls. However, I only I treated my dolls as patients, or I spoke to them. I had conversations with them, and when I look back, I never like did their hair or dresses. I didn't do that. So as long as I can remember, I already knew that this is what I'm going to do. And halfway through medical school, I started realizing that I am a healer. And let me explain that.
Yeah.
I've always been a lifelong intuitive. I used to hear people's thoughts when I was a kid, and so many other things. And I was always told by the adults to not share. This is a nice way of saying that. Let's say people were having a conversation and somebody, for example, wasn't being truthful, I could feel that, I could hear that, and I would say something like, "Oh, that's not true," and it was like, shh, respect your elders, don't say anything, or people didn't believe. So I kind of pushed that, in the background. However, as I was going through my training to become a doctor, I noticed that I was doing more. I could empathize. I could see what was going on. I could feel what was going on. And I wasn't saying anything though, because I had learned that it wasn't always good to speak of what I could see or perceive that everybody else couldn't see. And I wanted to be respected, and I had a belief at the time that in order to be accepted, I had to be like everybody else, meaning, don't rock the boat, be exactly like everybody. And then I came to America to do my residency and became an anesthesiologist. However, I was always interested in meditation and yoga. I was pushing down and repressing my spiritual gifts. And then I think about 2012 is when I couldn't repress them anymore. They were starting to come out without my control. And that's when I decided to really embrace that part of me that I had been suppressing for so long. And so it took a few years, and I finally came out as spiritual at my hospital job. It was really a coming out. Because
yeah.
And then as I continued to come out, I really went on a deep personal healing journey, and really deep introspection and initiations, really asking the question, what do I believe in? What do I stand for? And for me, it is about love. It is about the heart. That's the greatest powers of all. And that's why when I created my signature talks, programs, or the way I work with my clients, I called it heart-centered conscious leadership. Because if you don't come from the heart when you're in leadership or positions of authority, it is really, really hard to maintain alignment and integrity. It's really hard to help everybody thrive and grow. So that's a short version of the journey.
I love what you have just shared. I love everything that you've just shared. You know, I'd like to explore more and really acknowledge what you said in the moment you came out as a spiritual being, and it is like a coming out. And we understand coming out, but not necessarily in context of recognizing ourselves and declaring to the world, I'm a spiritual being in this physical body, and taking ownership of it. And in a medical model, in conventional medicine, that's a really brave, gutsy thing to do, because that's not part of your training. That's not part of the paradigm. Like there's no framework that recognizes and embraces that in any way. And you could have really, it was a vulnerable, gutsy thing to do. To say,
it was, and it wasn't easy. And the feeling, if I describe the feeling that I had at the time, it was I couldn't not anymore. I couldn't not. And as I was contemplating this, I actually realized that even if I wasn't saying the words, I was behaving that way without taking ownership, without really accepting myself. And I noticed that people could feel in, when as an anesthesiologist, we take people to surgery and we bring them to the recovery room. And every time I took my patients to the recovery room, the nurses would always be like, "Oh, Dr. Mbouni, I'll take your patient. Dr. Mbouni, I'll take your patient." And I just thought they did that with every anesthesiologist. And then one day I was coming in the recovery room, and there was another doctor, anesthesiologist in front of me, and we both came at the same time. And they still did that. So I went back later and I asked the nurses, "Why do you always ask me to pick my patients?" And they said, "Your patients don't have a lot of pain. They wake up happy. They're not angry. They wake up with a smile. They're polite. Even when they have pain, they ask nicely, and it is easy to deal with them." And also I noticed that if somebody was having a hard time in the team, or if he was a patient maybe who had big news and was really having a challenge, a difficult time or anxiety, they would always say, they would call me to go and talk to them. And I discovered that they called me the verbal Xanax. So it started making me realize that I was the only one thinking I was hiding, but that it was coming through. My essence was coming through, and that gave me courage to slowly start to, when my patients were coming, I would ask them, "Do you want a meditation, when you go to sleep, instead of counting, from 100 to whatever, right?" And everybody would be like, "Oh yes, I would love that." And I started bringing crystals in my operating room and clearing the space. And I noticed people, because they had been feeling how I was and how I was showing up, and I was not trying to impose my views on anyone. I was not trying to explain. I was not trying to defend or prove that this is better or not. I was just being me. And I think that made it really smooth. And yeah, so and then I noticed that when surgeons or people had their family members who needed to have surgery, they would request me. So they knew, they felt it.
Yeah.
And then when I felt that I couldn't not anymore, I started saying, I'm spiritual. I'm, this holiday I'm gonna go to my shamanic training vision quest. Like, I started saying things like that.
Yes.
And people would be like, "Wow, okay, what is that?" And then the culmination was the director of the surgery department had his wife who needed to have surgery, and he requested me. He said, "I don't know what you do, but when you're in my room, nobody ever dies, and everybody does well, so I want you to take care of my wife." And I did the same thing. I did a meditation for her, and that's how I put her to sleep. I gave her energy, and she did so well. She had no pain, and she wrote a letter to the director of the hospital saying something like, "This doctor, she used everything on me. She did some metaphysical stuff that I don't understand, but I felt so good." So the thing is, when you take ownership of who you are, when you really start getting comfortable in your skin and accepting, then people can also see you for who you are. And it's important that you not try to change people or tell people that you're better, or try to teach them if you're not their teacher, if you don't have that relationship. If you're not their coach or their guide, just be you. And if they want more, they will always come. Yeah.
It's this is such a powerful illustration of being who you're called to be, being
Yeah.
who you're born to be, because the contrast is so great. I think everybody listening in from all over the world can really relate to the image, to the picture that you're describing of your experiences in your own life. And that's just a glorious thing. And it just shows that when you're in your truth, there's a potency,
Mm.
and that it's
Yeah.
healing, not only for yourself, but it does have a healing effect
Mhm.
on others, because it allows them to heal the parts of themselves that
Mhm.
need healing. And I love too, like, this could just, the potential for what you've just said is enormous, because we will always, we live in a world, and there's such a place for emergency medicine.
Mhm.
There is a place for surgery and for medical procedures, and yet there is room to bring holistic healing into it. And that's what
Absolutely.
you've allowed people to experience as patients, as
Mhm.
nurses, as as surgeons, as everybody involved in the medical environment where you were working, got to experience
Mhm.
and witness that
Mm.
there's a whole, there's more than this part.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you for seeing that. And, you used the word at some point, resonance. When we allow, because actually our job here on earth, your job is to be you. That's literally your job, all that you can be. Because when you are in your truth, in your beingness, not your thinking, your beingness, you radiate that energy. And that creates such a space for others to show up as who they are supposed to be. And of course, Western medicine is important. And the only thing that I invite everybody to do is to always think about wholeness instead of separation, because you're not just a liver, you're not a knee. When I was in residency and medical school, that's something that always made me stop, is we address patients by their diseases. Oh, patient in room 10 is the liver. Like we never call them by name. Oh,
Mm.
that's the knee, it's the hip, it's the brain, it's the eye. and
Wow.
and it's like, um no. And even when we live our lives, we are a whole, we are a body, we're an energy field. We have a spiritual body, we have a mental body. All those parts of us need nourishment. So really, really big to think about wholeness.
Yeah. And as you say, all those parts of us that need nourishment, it's only when those, it's my belief and experience that it's only when those parts of us are nourished that we can really be the love
I agree.
that we so deeply hunger for.
Hmm.
And then we can only become an instrument of service that we
Hmm.
also deeply, deeply hunger for.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so simple, and yet it's so slippery to grasp.
Yes, it is slippery because we're not taught to to pay attention to those parts of us. I wrote a blog post the other day, or it was an Instagram post, I don't remember, where I was saying that I did so many years of school, 12 years to become an anesthesiologist, and, all the other years of schooling. And not even in a day, I was taught about self love, self awareness. I was just a brain who needed to memorize things.
Mm.
And how can we thrive if we just focus on one thing?
Yeah, it's really, that's an education that's bringing forth everything from this realm. And it's, we've got to engage a lot of will forces from our metabolic realm to get it done, but it's not putting any in devoted intentional awareness to the feeling realm of our heart, of
Yeah.
the breath of life itself. Marie, you said, in speaking about heart and all that you do and lead in being heart-centered leadership, and it just resonates so strongly in, as you said, everything, it all
Mm-hmm.
comes from the heart. And and this is what it's all about. It's, it's not about us following the leadership of others. And for everybody listening, it's about being a heart-centered leader of ourselves. And I
Yes.
know as you were speaking, it reminded me of a particular experience I had a lot of years ago now, where I was in a position of leadership as the chair
Mm.
of a board, and a decision was being made. And everybody was going one way with the
Mm.
decision to be made. There was a lot of fear, there was palpable fear, and it was a big decision, and there was a lot at stake. So I got it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was, wrestling with my own fear and staying in my heart at the same time. And it's hard to do both simultaneously.
Right.
But my heart and my truth spoke more
Mm.
loudly. The
Mm.
throb of that was
Mm-hmm.
greater than the vice like grip of the fear. And I made my decision against everybody else from that place of heart. It made
Mm.
no sense. It was still risky. There was
Mm-hmm.
still the risk of my speaking up, but there were still risks involved with a decision going this way as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to that way.
Right.
But it was from the heart. And I
Yes.
remember leaving the room that night, and I felt like a little girl. I felt free like a little girl. And
Yes.
I'd never felt so unbounded. And I thought,
Mm.
what's going on? Like what's happening? And I thought, I had the courage to really lead from my heart tonight.
Yes.
And the outcome will
Yes.
be what it is. But
Yes.
I had that experience that you've described of real
Yes.
heart-centered leadership. And it was like,
Yes.
that's the only way forward. That's the only path forward for me. Me.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. One of the things I say is that the biggest journey you'll ever take is to go from your head to your heart. It might seem like miles and miles and miles, but that's your most powerful journey. And, when you talk about this feeling that you had, this elation, this freedom only comes from alignment to your truth. Because here's the thing, if you ignore your truth, your heart, you know it. You know it. And what happens is you start losing self-respect, you start losing self-trust, your confidence, your joy starts eroding slowly and slowly until you feel numb or you feel empty. And one of the things I want everybody to know is that when it comes to the leader of your body, it's the heart. The heart can command the brain. The brain cannot command the heart. emotions trump logic every time, every time. And our job is to really express, connect to our emotions so that we recognized when they're real, what they're expressing, what they're trying to teach us, what they're trying to show us, and act from that place. And I'm not talking about what people call emotional, which is a, you know, um, not a very nice word. What I'm talking about is your innate wisdom, the way your soul speak to you. It's through your feelings. It's through your feelings. If you're ready to do a deal, for example, you were talking about that decision, when you were in that position of leadership, and you're trying to make this decision and it doesn't feel good, and your stomach is tight and you're anxious and you have acid, and you just like your body's talking to you. And my invitation is just press pause just for a moment. Take a breath. Like, what's happening? What do I feel this way? What are you trying to tell me? What am I not seeing? What should I consider? Just take that moment so that you can receive all the information from your brain, from your heart, from your energy, from source, so that when you make a decision, you have all the facts, not just from your brain.
Yeah. And I love that
Yeah.
you touched on then, um, that if you are coming from the brain and or from the mind, trying to rule the heart in terms of logic and decision making process, or to live from reason, that it is acidic by nature, and that dims the very resonance of love itself. It dims the higher frequencies. you know
Right.
it, an acidic environment lowers them, it negates them,
Mm-hmm.
it keeps us so
Yeah.
bound and stuck where we're at. We'll just keep getting what we're getting.
Yeah. And the thing is that, from a scientific point of view, what I'm talking about, this pathway, there's a pathway from the heart to the brain. And the brain is like, it's really like a computer, and it only functions with the software that you have. So if you have the latest update, it runs really well. If you're running with the old software and you don't have enough random access memory, or like your computer and you have like a lot of windows open, it just goes slow. It is real. That's how the brain works. And what it does, it loves creating patterns, right? So when you learn something, it creates a pattern, it puts it in a box somewhere so that when you need that pattern again, it can pull it out and present it to you. If not, we would have to learn how to tie our shoes every time we put our shoes on, right? The brain doesn't want you to suffer. It does what it thinks you want. Seriously.
Yeah.
So you have to tell your brain, this is what I like, this is where I'm going, this is how I want to think. Because all the imprints that we get from society, from our parents, since we were kids, television, environment, all that is stored. And we react or take actions with that information that we don't even know our brains store. It's stored in the subconscious. And that's
Mm.
why, sometimes you know that this is not good. Let's say you say, I want to lose weight. And you say that you want to lose weight. And yet, if in your subconscious, either you don't believe you can and you're not really committed, or you just have patterns of eating
Mm.
that are imprinted in your brain, it doesn't matter how much willpower you have, it will happen. You'll eat that ice cream or cake, or you will eat 10 times a day. That's why willpower doesn't work with the subconscious. You have
Yeah.
to change the pattern, you have to change the belief, you have to change the mindset. So, what I'm saying here for everybody to understand is that the brain is great. I'm not saying don't use your brain, I'm saying use it in a powerful way. Program your brain, use your heart to program your brain so that it will show you information that allows you to make decisions based on your heart, based on your truth, based on your alignment. That's literally how it works.
Yeah, and that's being a really powerful being, which each of us are, because
Yes.
we're allowing that power to create. We're able to create life from that power, as opposed to limiting the our unlimited potential of the heart by keeping it continues to feed these subconscious beliefs,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and that's why it's so
Yeah.
difficult for people. That's why I think humanity is so weary at the moment. You know,
Well,
there's this
and
fatigue.
yes, and it's a deep fatigue, a deep disillusionment. Um, you know, especially in the West, there is this pervasive belief that, the heart is weak, or it's not. If you lead from the heart, you're not smart. Those are old paradigm beliefs where people ruled by force, authority, over. You have to step over someone, to go higher. And it's like, why? You could just go higher. Why do that? I mean, the universe is abundant, and possibilities are, endless. And just having that, you have to step over someone, uh, to rise, is just a concept that's dépassé. It's old. And the call right now is really for everyone to take stock. Like, how do you feel about yourself? Because when we heal from our heart and we heal our hearts, all the things that we see, the injustices, you know all that will be the past. Because when you lead from the heart, you understand interconnectivity, interconnectedness. You understand humanity. You understand empathy. You understand compassion. And those don't make you weak, they only make you stronger. I was talking to a friend yesterday for his birthday. He was doing a birthday walk because we're still doing social distancing. I live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And he just wrote a book called Leading Without Authority. And, it's a concept that many people, don't know. And he was talking, we're talking about it because he knows that I also believe in that, heart leadership. And so what he was talking about, and I love this, and I've said it, but he's saying it in a different way, is that, as we lead, as we show up, it's about creating communities that are passionate about the same thing. What you're doing right here, Deepika, is creating a community of people who are passionate about consciousness, conscious voices rising. That's a community, and we come together. And there's this summit, different speakers, talking about the same thing, different ways, and raising the vibration of the community here so that we can raise the vibration of all the places where we all are in the world. That's how we do it, by raising our vibration, being in the heart, so that we can radiate that wherever we are.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. Uh, is this what you feel is collectively called to be healed in the world right
Yes.
now at this moment in 2020? Yeah.
2020 has been a pivotal year. When the year was starting, I knew it was going to be a big year, but I didn't know how.
Mm.
And and what has happened is we have been given the gift of disruption of everything: businesses, travels, families. Everything has been disrupted. The way we eat, the way we talk to each other, the way we communicate, everything. So that, my belief is that this is the time to create new definitions of what it means to connect. Now we don't connect the same way. It's FaceTime, Zoom, and new definitions of work, new definitions and new agreements within yourselves. This is the time to create that. New frameworks. When I meditate now, I meditate, for the planet. And I ask that, people who have that gift, create new technologies, green technologies, technologies with less noise. You know, um, I was meditating on Sunday, and my neighbors were taking care of their garden, and they have a leaf blower, and it was like, or like the whole neighborhood. It's like, it's time to invent noiseless leaf blowers, like,
The broom. Bring back the straw broom. Maybe.
we don't need a broom. We just need new technologies that are more, friendly to our health, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is that we have been given a gift to pause and take stock. And during this time, we have the opportunity to create the world that we want to live in. This is a call to action. This is an initiation.
Yeah. And like all great initiations, it requires us showing up and being present.
Yes.
What do you think is a golden practice that
Mm.
people can use to support them during this initiation, during this disruption?
Self-care. Self-care. If you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anyone else, and you can't really actually show up fully. Self-care, starting with presence, self-awareness. It is important that you stop every day. In the morning when you wake up, just take a moment, like, how do I feel? What do I need? Those two questions. Self-love practice. And my self-love practice can be as simple as just one thing or involve more. So this is what I do. I use the universal self-love mudra, where I place both hands center of the chest, heart chakra. Take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale everything out through the mouth. And And every time you exhale, you let go of the day. You let go of the to-do list. You let go of anything that is bothering you, anything that doesn't require your attention. It usually takes, 4 or 5 breaths. And then I just say, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And as I say, I love you, I notice how I feel. I notice the automatic self talk. Let's say I do this in the morning, and maybe the day before I said, I'm going to do this task and I'm going to eat this way or I'm going to exercise, and I didn't do it, right? So when I say I love you, then it's like, yeah, right. You didn't even, like exercise yesterday. And and then when that comes, I automatically forgive myself immediately and completely and just say, I'm going to try again today. So, breath, universal self love mudra, I love you. Notice what's underneath whenever you say that if you don't believe yourself. Like, yeah, right, you love yourself. Ha ha ha. Notice. And when you notice, take action. If it's something you didn't do, you don't feel good about yourself, forgive yourself right away. Always, completely, radically. There was a study that was done with monks. They studied their brain waves, and they noticed that they would go really deep into meditation to the delta brain wave, which is like really, really deep, like 4 hertz frequency. And they asked them, how are you able to go this deep? And they said, radical forgiveness. They just forgive everything, everything. So there's nothing holding them down. So those are 3 practices that will really get you going when you don't have a lot of time for self-care. Nourishment. Nourish your physical body. When you wake up in the morning, make a habit to really nourish yourself, whatever it is for you, with the intention that I am nourishing my body, not just mindless eating, because it doesn't even nourish you. And then whatever, you like. If you feel a little ungrounded, go outside barefoot, where you can put your foot on the ground to receive the vibrations, the frequency from the earth, from the ground. Those are practices that will start helping you, calling yourself home, calling your energy home, being present with where you are.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's so, these are potent practices. I feel that for people listening in now, you're all really feeling the truth and the potency and the nourishment of these practices.
Exactly.
They are so authentic. There is, I can feel a palpable transmission even in the articulation.
It is happening.
It's there. So, Marie, thank you. Thank you for being such an embodied messenger of love, really, and following your calling and truth to extend the invitation and show the way for everybody to become the love that we are. This is what I love about your work and what you're doing. And
Thank you.
it's this is it. It's time.
It is time. It
It's
is
time.
time.
Who are we kidding?
It's time for love to rule. You know,
Oh,
here's the truth. Every person I work with have always told me I have never felt this loved. And I didn't even know that what I was craving was love.
and we're
And
all craving it.
without self-love, there is no worthiness.
Mm,
There is no fulfillment.
mm.
So it's really time. It is time.
It is time. And, you know, and listening to you, it felt like, I felt like I was being loved and held, but, you know, it was like I was lying curled up in the womb of Mother Earth, just
Yeah,
being
I was
stroked and
transmitting
listening.
love
Yeah.
to the audience. I was
Yeah.
transmitting love
Yeah.
and that, you know, being held. You can only surrender if you feel held and safe. Surrender to what is, surrender to what you are, who you are.
Yeah.
Accepting yourself can only happen when you love yourself, and they go together.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm,
Thank you so much for this rich, loving, loving conversation,
thank
and
you.
for all you bring to the world, for all you bring to uplift humanity.
Mm, and thank you too for all that you bring, for your beautiful spirit and soul. And I just, your energy, your service, your heart. Thank you. We are so blessed to have
We are
you.
so blessed. We're all
Yeah.
so blessed. We're all so
Yes.
blessed. And we're
Yeah.
all, you know, everybody, we're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
In this together, and we're
Yes.
all, it's an equal playing field. The importance
Yes.
of each of us is so great. It is so
Mm,
necessary for the whole. So
absolutely.
please, you know, show up to cultivating self-love.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.